Several minutes of commercial-free football starts now. Here are the Purple Mortgage Guys.
Hey, welcome everybody to another episode of Purple Mortgage Guys. We've got Goose and Tanner, myself, Brent. We're three guys that do home loans, and we love talking about the Vikings and Minnesota Viking football. So started a show here. If you've not yet subscribed, go ahead and hit subscribe. Follow us if you'd like. We're going to do some stuff over the draft I think you'll find entertaining. And if you've got any comments, by all means, leave them for us. We'd love to read them out on the next episode. But today, guys, we wanted to talk about, there's a lot of talk about Danielle Hunter and what's going to happen with him. Is he disgruntled? Will he show up to camp? Will he play for the number that he's currently signed to right now? And what could he potentially net in a trade if the Vikings were to go that route? So, Goose, I'm going to start with you on this one. Give me some of the logistics of Danielle's current situation and what some options the Vikings have as an organization.
Yeah, this is a situation that I'm always fairly frustrated with. A player that had a ton of potential. We were really excited about 2-3 years into his career. Was the quickest player to 50 sacks, I believe, and then dealt with injury issues year in, year out, contract kind of scuffles, and is Danielle going to show up to camp? Is Danielle happy? Just something that's always really irritated me. He had all the potential in the world. All of a sudden you blink your eyes. He's 28, turned 29 in October. And you feel like, okay, is he out of his prime? And I think one thing that's tough with that, to be fair, is some of the things Danielle does, at least according to PFF and some of these other analytics, it doesn't always show on the stat sheet. But there's almost, to me, like a little bit of Anthony Barr, where just sometimes it seems like he can turn it on and have 3 sacks, and sometimes it seems like maybe there's a lack of effort. I just think it's really tough for someone who's had the injuries that he has had to look and say, I could be a top 5 pass rusher. I want to be paid like one. Another big narrative right now is that a lot of people are talking about his base salary, and why would he ever play at $4 million a year? I am definitely not Rob Brzezinski and don't fully understand this stuff, but the little bit of research that I've done is when they last restructured his deal, they converted a lot of his cap to a bonus where he was paid that up front. And you can see it's kind of spread out over the years here. So in 2023, he's set to make a base salary of $4.9 million. That's the big number you're seeing reported on. Then he'll have the roster bonus, which obviously he'd make the roster at $500,000, workout bonus of $100,000, and then that restructured amount is the big number that I look at. So Danielle's had that money in his pocket. He got paid that when he restructured, and so he's probably looking at that like, I've already been paid this. You guys are only going to pay me $4.9 million. The Vikings are looking at that as, hey, we've hung by you throughout your injuries, through maybe a little bit of lack of production from what we expect. The Players Association and the NFL kind of came to an agreement to re-look at some things as far as players holding out, being more challenging for players to hold out when they're under contract. So it's going to be really tense. I think there's rumors now that Danielle is not reporting to voluntary OTAs, and so this is definitely going to heat up. And I don't know how much you play hardball. The big question is, how much is Danielle asking for? Does he want to be paid like a top 5 guy? Then get him out. Get what you can for him, hoping you could scrap together a first-round pick for a guy who's in his 20s and shows flashes of an upside, hoping that someone is drastically looking for a freak of nature who's an athlete, betting on the upside. It seems to be that we've had several years of that. So my vote would be the end result is going to be trade Danielle Hunter. I don't think we're going to come to terms with what he wants to be paid.
Tanner, what do you say about that? What's Danielle worth? Do you pull the trigger on that and try to stack some more capital and some picks? Like, what's your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think I'm with Goose. In the end run, I think that and we've talked about before, I think this is the one player on our roster right now where you're probably not going to get what you like for him this time of year, being in or it being crap, guys. I'm sorry. My computer's about to die.
He was going to say it going into draft season. You're probably not going to be able to get what you normally get for him. But I don't know if you can flip Danielle for a couple picks, and maybe then you do hold on to Za'Darius. I don't know, Goose. That doesn't seem like a bad scenario to me.
Yeah, to try to pick up on where I think he was going with that, I agree to an extent. Like, hey, you're looking at a bunch of people that you can get for less money that you maybe could give you similar production. I think on the flip side is every team has so many needs that they want to address. And maybe the guy that you loved in the draft got picked 3 spots ahead of you, and now you're on to plan B. So I do think what Tanner was saying has some merit. I think you would maybe bank on, and if Tanner's got his audio back, he can confirm or deny if this is where he was going. You have to bank on a team missing out on their guy, and now is like, okay, we're all in on Danielle. You just have to hope that the team that would be in on a Danielle doesn't get their guy in the draft.
Yeah, I agree. I think you hit the nail on the head there. It's definitely going to be a team, I think. If we do trade him, it's going to be a team that missed out on their guy probably within the first round. Like, I think this is like a day 2 type scenario.
You do think so? This happens during the draft at some point next weekend. Okay.
Yeah. If you want to get your absolute max value for him, it has to happen during the draft. It can't happen after the fact because
can it happen before? Could it happen next week leading up to it?
Yeah, but I feel like that's very unlikely at this point, just because this is the time. This is the time frame where all the teams are really like nailing down their board. And we're just waiting. It's a waiting game at this point. Nobody knows how the board's going to fall. And like I said, if you want to get max return for him, it has to be during the draft. It can't be after the fact, because if you want to make a trade for a guy like this during the summer, it would probably be injury related at that point. Like a guy had gone down somewhere else and somebody's desperate and they're going to end up making a trade for him. But if you want max value for him, it has to happen during the draft. I don't know what kind of compensation, honestly. I know we saw that the Panthers were offered from the Bears last year for Brian Burns, and they were offered like 2 first-round picks. I'm not saying the Vikings would get that because Danielle's a little bit older. He is better, but he's been more injury-prone as well. I think he'd probably be realistically looking at like a 2nd and a 3rd, or just maybe like 1 straight-up first-round pick, which I would be fine with as well. But I just don't know where like another first-round pick would set you up at that point in the draft, depending on where it is. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. I do think that it feels like we're at a parting way with Danielle, unfortunately. And I think we talked about this a little bit before the offseason kicked off as well, that he was probably going to be pretty unhappy going into training camp with his current contract and probably request a trade. And
Tanner, we just came off of a 1 through 5 ranking video. Off top of your head, little to no explanation. What's most likely? Danielle gets traded, Danielle plays on his current contract, or Danielle gets restructured and is a Viking next year on a new contract. Rank them 1 to 3, most likely being 1, least likely being 3.
1 most likely is, I think that he gets restructured and plays on a different deal. I don't know what those terms look like. And then I would say a very close second would be him getting traded. And then I think the 3rd is him playing on his current contract. I don't blame him for not wanting to play at that number. I think he's still getting paid well. But, I mean, you are almost in your 30s and like almost out of your prime years. Like, you really got to go chase your bags right now. And I don't blame him for wanting to do that. I just don't know if the Vikings are the team to pay him that money.
Goose, what do you think? Is number 99 lined up for the Vikings next year or no?
I'd like to think that it could be possible. I just think now that we're on 2 different GMs with issues now with Danielle reporting, I think everyone set up Danielle to be in the perfect situation this offseason by doing the restructure. For Danielle, hey, you're 27, 28, go ball out. and either we're going to pay you or you'll get traded to some team who's going to pay you a ton of money. And he didn't, in my opinion, he didn't do that. He had a solid second half of the season, but he didn't have that season that would have teams dialing the Vikings like crazy, saying, what do we need to do for Danielle? So to me, that's on Danielle. I think the Vikings paid him early, which is something Rick Spielman liked to do a lot, is reward players early on in their career and try to get them under contract. And I think his agent's probably in his head, like, dude, you're 28, going to be 29. This is your window to make the money. We got to do it. And then I think he's also got a little bit of that in him. So it just, as much as I'd love to see him play on a relatively team-friendly deal, it seems like he and his agent are too much about the money, and we've got contingency plans to move on without him.
I'm going to throw this on some film here. So we've got a video to review. I'm going to say that Danielle gets traded draft night. Not only does Danielle get traded, but Delvin also is either traded or released. I'm hijacking the Danielle video just so we've got that on tape for you guys. So
I love it.
That's what we'll say. What do you guys think that are listening here or watching? Throw it in the comments. Let us know. Is Danielle in purple next year, or is he somewhere else? If he is somewhere else, where do you see that being? And should the Vikings make restructuring Danielle a priority, or is it shut up and play football and you signed a contract and play hardball? Love to know what the rest of you guys out there listening think. Throw it in the comments. Like I said, if you've not yet subscribed, be sure to do that. And we'll be back here again before you know it. Have a great day, everybody.